911 speed is a great little story. Thank you. I tell you that my dad had a Datsun 240Z.
Cars. I mean, I can probably say 90% of my friends I met through cars. I mean, people like Mark Lambert and Mike Rogers and Rob Fuller and those kind of guys. I mean, that's just, you know, they're some of my best friends, and if it wasn't for cars, we'd have never met.
Yeah, okay, so speaking of Rob, that's actually how we connected, because Rob rebuilt my 240Z, pretty much all the mechanical things he redid over the past year, and I finally have it back and I'm enjoying it quite a bit in Los Angeles. But if you guys watch Autofocus a lot, you've heard Randy's name many times because Rob speaks so highly of you. He essentially calls you kind of like the Datsun ambassador now, right? Well, because I guess you're just putting so much effort into preserving this heritage with Datsun and just, I don't know, just the history of it. It's so interesting because you also like to share your collection and you like to share this thing that you love with the rest of the world as well.
Well, your first comment about Rob Fuller was, you know, you don't meet too many people that share the passion, but you never really meet somebody that shares the passion on that kind of level. He is the craziest, as you know. Like I said earlier. The best thing about Rob is when I give him a car, like this car is leaving today,
right,
to go out to Z-Car Garage.
Okay.
And everybody goes, wait a second, you're going to ship your car from Alpharetta, Georgia, to have Rob work on it in San Jose, California? And I go, how many $5,000 and $10,000 mistakes have you made building cars? When I send it to Rob, I can sleep at night. I don't have to worry about anything. He knows exactly the way these cars were built. He's a historian. I mean, you're talking about a guy that went to 1989 to the races at Road Atlanta and came up with 15 guys and called it the John Morton Army, and they had hats made up and they went and stalked John Morton all weekend. I mean, that's why we get along so well.
I remember seeing that at Rob's shop, I think, a couple of years back, or when I first met him. I'm just blown away also the fact that I legitimately just drove that not too long ago, right before it got shipped back to you.
Well, that's the Bonneville Flats record-setting car from 1976, and you know, the guys at Nissan, Dave Bishop, Dan Pass, and Jonathan Bueller, those guys, we all kind of have had some commonality in working together with some cars, and this car was sitting in their museum, parked in the back, and it needed some love. It hadn't been touched since the late 70s, so we made arrangements for me to get a hold of it. And it's actually going to Amelia Island. It'll be shown on the grass. Last year, Jim Fitzgerald's 510 up front was the only Datsun on the grass on Sunday at the Ritz-Carlton in Amelia. And that made me feel good. And this year, I don't know how many Datsuns will be there this year, but this will be on the grass.
Yeah, so if you guys want to watch that episode, there's a whole episode of that, of me driving it, also of Rob driving it out on the street in California, which was insane because the thing is so loud. It's a blast to drive, though.
This car, I mean, we could talk. I mean, I could digress everywhere around here. I get started on one subject and go to another one. But the motor that was in here that set the record at 166.037 miles per hour, and think about that in 1976. The record didn't get broken in that FGT class until '85, and then Robello put a team together in 2010, and they went 177. So for 1976, with an L28 motor, And then when it went back to Nissan, I'm not sure what happened to the motor. There was a L24 in it when we got it back with some flat top cars, which is sitting up front. But John Caldwell, who built the BRE motors, the Bob Sharp motors, personally, he did all of Paul Newman's motors, did all the Viper motors in the 90s. I mean, and he ran TRD. I mean, he's really an icon in the engine building business. And so he built me a backup motor for the 46Z for John to race, because it seemed like we were always popping them. And so that motor, I had it on a stand, and it's very, very close to what they ran. It's a little over a 2.8. It's probably a 2.85 maybe. And that's very, very close to the motor that Tom O'Connor, who was head of Datsun competition, and by the way, he'll be at Amelia. He still lives in LA, and he was part of this team. And they set out as a team and set the record in this for like 4 years in a row.
By the way, I love how casual you are when you're referring to John Martin. You're like, oh yeah, the one that we built for John to race. I love that.